Welcome to another episode of Chef Knives to Go Quick Look Product Reviews. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we have this time is the Kohetsu Wa, or Japanese handled Aogami Super Kiritsuke 240mm knife. So I just did the video on the Western handled, or Yo version of this knife, and this one has some significant differences in handling and minor differences in geometry. So they both have exactly the same construction, same steel composition. Aogami Blue Paper Super Reactive High Carbon Steel for the core steel, the cutting steel, and then a soft stainless, actually kind of a semi-stainless cladding on each side of that harder core steel. Heat treat on the core steel is about 64 Rockwell, so they take it to a pretty high hardness. And these knives are known to have really good heat treat. It's done rather scientifically in batches, and they've got testing certificates they generate once in a while from test samples. So it's a very consistent, high-quality heat treat. So these are known to have excellent heat treat on that core steel. The cladding, as I mentioned, they bill it as stainless, but in practice it's kind of a semi-stainless because you'll get some light staining and maybe a light patina to develop over time on that, as well as, of course, on the core steel. But don't be surprised if you do get a little bit of that on there. These have a nice kind of used tool look to them once you get used a while, and they're great in a pro kitchen. These are kind of oriented around pro kitchens for the edge retention, but they also work great in a home environment as well. So the weight and dimensions on these should be pretty similar from knife to knife. This one's 138 grams or 4.9 ounces, so quite a bit lighter than the Western handle version. Edge length is longer than the Western handle version, so this is about 243 millimeters on the edge versus the Western version was 235, so quite a bit of difference there. It's about 9.6 inches on the edge. Overall length about 15.5 inches. And the grind on these, the blade has an overall kind of a little bit thinner, higher performance feel. Not a huge difference, but a little bit. I measured about 2.25 at the back here on the spine thickness and about 2 millimeters about halfway down. It pretty much maintains that, but then, I've only got one sample of each knife, but the Wa version or Japanese version, handled version, seems to be ground just a little thinner overall on this turn here at the corner on that reverse sword tip, and then a little thinner on the tip. So the tip maybe just a touch better performance, not major differences. The height is a little higher as well. The Western version was about 49.5. This one's about 50.5, so a little bit taller. Balance point is going to be much further forward. So handling on these is very different. So your balance point on this one with the light handle is way up here, which is in front of a pinch grip. So you get a little bit of that weight forward bias on the balance point versus the Western was back behind your pinch grip. So quite a bit of different feel. Even though this is overall lighter, it's got a totally different feel because of where the weight is oriented in the balance point. Handles are nice on these, just nothing fancy, but a good basic octagonal ambidextrous hoe wood with a buffalo horn ferrule. Nice fit and finish and install on the handle where the tang goes in. We talked about the balance point, so you've got a nice spot there for a pinch grip. Let's look at I guess one other thing would be the size of the handle is about 76 millimeters or 3 inches in circumference where the ferrule meets the wood. Pretty standard size for this type of blade. Here is our beauty shot. So what you'll see on this is you can kind of see from the lighting, they've got a convex grind that starts down from the spine and just gradually kind of thins out as you get towards the edge. That helps, despite the blade being pretty thin, that you can see the way the light's reflecting there. So it's not a pure flat grind, which will help food release, help product separation a bit. So it's got decent food release despite the style of the finish on it. You've got embossed kanji on the right side of the blade. You've got a vertical machine finish from spine to edge. And on the right side of the blade, as you would be holding it, they also polish up and thin out the metal towards the edge to give a little bit higher performance. So you'll see what kind of looks like a large bevel, but it's a very shiny polished area. On the left side of the blade, they tend not to do that and just go with the regular edge bevel. So that's just a way to kind of thin it out a little bit. If you look closely, you'll see the cladding line. It's very faint the way these are made, but when you start using it as the core steel patinas more than you get the light staining on the cladding, you'll start to see that that edge shape and cladding, line pop a little bit more and make it look really cool. They've got a nice polish job on the spine, a little bit just to relieve it on the choil here back and by the neck, so it's very comfortable out of the box. These tend to have very nice edges, 6, maybe 7 out of 10. They're quite sharp out of the box. And this blade has just a little more flexibility than the Western version, not much. We're not talking major differences. The biggest is probably the handling and a little bit longer length here. Here is your edge profile, which is fairly similar between the two. So this has a little bit of a flat towards the back third of the blade, kind of a gentle middle area there for push-pull cutting, light rocking, and then the tip, you've got a little bit of belly there towards the tip, so I'm getting in there. Every knife's going to be slightly different the way they finish the tip off. You could probably finish the tip a little more aggressively and upsweep it a little bit when you sharpen to kind of get your knife to go a little higher on a rock. So this is not a pure rocker, but it'll rock nicely over kind of low medium stuff, and then do a little chopping towards the back, kind of a low belly towards the middle. So this should handle a lot of cutting technique quite well. So it's a very accommodating knife. Again, these are excellent in a pro kitchen. They're light, nimble, great core steel, nothing too fancy. If you really want to blend in, you can use the Western version, or if you like that kind of handling, if you want something a little lighter and more nimble and quick, this might be a good choice for you. But the performance on these is both great. This one probably I would give a little bit of a performance edge over the Yo version or Western version, but they're pretty darn close. So this is the Kohetsu Wa Aogami Super Kiritsuke 240mm knife.